We're starting on the second parak, the second chapter of Perikei Avos tonight. The reality is that there is a tremendous, tremendous amount in the chapter. So I'm going to focus on 2 or 3 themes that come out from the chapter, which I think connect. And again, we'll see, dependent on how fast I feel I'm speaking, how far we are going to go tonight. So the first Mishnah we're going to look at, again, I'm looking at themes rather than just trying to cover ground. The first theme we're going to look at is going to be in Mishnah Daled, the 4th Mishnah. You don't need to have it in front of you. I see that my mother has joined. It's a great honor to be able to be over a screen with my mother. So, Hu Hoya Oimer. I'm going to read out to you the 4th Mishnah, which says, Hu Hoya Oimer. He used to say, Asay Ratzona Kiratzoncha. Treat Hashem's will as this, it was your will, as though it was your will, in order that Hashem will treat your will as though it were His will. We'll explain this soon, so don't worry if you don't get it yet. Nullify your will before Hashem's will, so that Hashem will nullify the will of others before your will. Okay, so that is the 4th Mishnah. Again, we are going to go through this again. We are going to explain this. But I think crucially, before we even start to have a look at the Mishnah and to try and understand the Mishnah, there are 3 crucial words at the beginning. I can't stress strong enough how crucial they are, which need to be interpreted, examined, and you could go through this Mishnah 1,000 times and just miss them. The first 3 words are, Hu Hoya Oimer. He used to say. Okay? So the Baal Tanura, one of the commentators, already asks, what does it mean, he used to say? Like, before we even get into what he says, again, we'll go through that in a few minutes. What does it mean, he used to say? What is the big deal, the significance of this phrase that our great rabbis are putting in here towards the beginning of the second parak of Perikei Avos? You find this phrase elsewhere. What does it mean, Hu Hoya Oimer? He used to say. So, in order to properly understand the Baal Tanura's answer, I want to build the theme up, this topic up a little bit, and I think the Baal Tanura's answer will really, really stand out. A question that, again, we've really been around the world, and what you really find with people, it doesn't matter how, where they live, how young, how old they are, how successful they are, you find 2 major things that come out in people. You have people who have all the money in the world, but you find a lot of people are unhappy, and a lot of people are jealous. Terrible jealousy out there. This is being recorded, so I have to be careful what I say, but in the city that I was in, 2 people who have more money than you can imagine, and I mean that you can imagine, and yet feelings between them towards each other was beyond belief. The jealousy, just unimaginable. People who are unhappy, people who have it all. Someone was telling me a story just a couple of days ago when I was learning this with someone else, and they were telling me, they got a friend who has a car worth about 200 grand, and they were describing that person's level of unhappiness. And they made a joke and said, I'm happy to swap with my car. But the point is, you see the theme of jealousy and unhappiness. Big, big themes. And I think if we would ask ourselves, really dig deep, I think, if any of us on the call would say that, we never get jealous, we don't have jealousy towards others, they've got more than us, they're smarter than us, they've got this more than us, they've got that more than us. Maybe we're deluding ourselves if we would deny it. Maybe we'd be lying. Maybe there is the odd person who somehow gets out of that. But jealousy is real. Unhappiness, we may feel we're happy, but come on. How many of us suffer from this? Okay, so I want to tie this all in together. We'll see what the Baal Tanura says before we even get into this Mishnah to explain the theme of where we're going to go here. So in one of the first tefillahs of our day, so we don't have to go too far, in the famous tefillah Elokai Neshama, right, where we speak about our neshama, our soul, such a beautiful, beautiful tefillah. Once in a while, just have a look at the English of it to appreciate what we're saying. It's really a stunning, stunning prayer. If you look at the tefillah, we speak about our neshama that Hashem has given us, and we get recharged every day, and what we do with our neshama. There's two ideas, I think, about our neshama that comes out. One of them is that we are appreciating that Hashem, the Rabbi Shalom, gives us a unique Jewish soul. My soul, my neshama is not the same as any of yours, and yours is unique. It's special. It's different. There's something special about it. Well, I think we're also acknowledging as part of that tefillah that Hashem made us a part of the Jewish nation, which again is something also special and unique. So there's two different levels of uniqueness within the tefillah of Elokai Neshama. First, you've got that I am unique, different to everyone else, and then the people that I'm a part of is also different to every other people. That's a beautiful part of Elokai Neshama. Now, if you have a look at the very beginning of Sefer B'Midbar, at the very beginning, and there's a census going on at the beginning of Sefer B'Midbar, and Rashi already explains that Hashem counts us there, and he counts us a few times in order to stress his love for us. So he keeps counting us. But it's very fascinating. If you look at the pasuk, and I've got it here in front of me, the pasuk speaks about how the Mispar Shemos, Hashem counts us both by number and by name. Rashi already starts speaking and commenting about the stars, but the pasuk speaks about how we're counted by number and by name. And the Mefarshim ask, why do we need to be counted by number and name? What's the significance in number and name? So one of the Mefarshim I saw, Moshe Sternbach writes, the number means that we could feel there's so many Jews out there, there's millions and millions and millions. So we could feel that I sort of get swallowed up amongst the masses. I'm just one, but we're being told, no, you're not just a number. You're a real number. You shouldn't feel you're swallowed up. You've got a unique importance. You're one. And then it says a name, right? What's a name? That no two people are the same. No individual is superfluous. Each Jewish soul has a specific and a unique task to fulfill that no one else can do. So here we are. Elokai Neshama, we learn, we're thanking Hashem in the morning. One of the first things we do every day, that we are unique. We are special. And then we are the idea towards the beginning of the Midbar with the census again, the idea of number and name. We are unique, we are special. We have our own unique neshama, our own unique us, entity. There is a big question, which is, how do we know what is our neshama capable of? I'm not even asking how do we know that we maximize our potential. That's a different question. What I'm asking is simple. How do I know what my neshama is capable of? Mine is unique. Yours is unique. How do any of us know what we're actually supposed to be doing? And of course, there are no Nevi'im, there are no prophets, so we don't exactly know what we're supposed to be doing. But there surely must be a way, especially if we're acknowledging that in the Elokai Neshama in the morning, and this idea of we're unique by number and by name, that there must be a way to work it out. So the truth is that always start to work it out. There is a whole concept. We don't have time to go into it because I want to get back to the Mishnah. But again, this is a real part of, we're going to see a minute of Hu Ha Yomer. But a way to do this is, you can do a whole exercise that they do, which is they draw a circle. And inside the circle, you write down everything that is unique to you. It could be from patience to tolerance. Again, every person is different. A baker, artistic. There's a million things that could go in, and everything else goes outside. Everything is left out. Everything else that's not you is left outside. And it's a very worthwhile task to do at some point, because then once you work out what's inside the circle, you work out who you are. And by looking what's on the outside, you work out who you're not. Why is that important? It's important because once a person knows who they are, they're not looking over their shoulder anymore at anyone else. Because everyone else is irrelevant. I no longer care if somebody is cleverer than me, wealthier than me, got more than me. That's nothing to do with it. They had a different circle. I am now comparing myself to myself. If a person is able to work out what their neshama is and what's special about them, they can actually be happy, because now I'm fulfilling my own potential. I'm able to start looking at who I am, what I am, and to work on myself. I don't have to worry and be jealous about anyone else. I don't have to be unhappy anymore. It's about me. Why am I looking over my shoulder at someone else? So that's what we need to do. We need to, we speak about individuality. We need to start thinking about who am I, who am I not. One of the hardest things in life to do is to say, who am I not? I was speaking with somebody a few months ago, somebody who is a few decades older than myself and was clearly trying to get into a profession that they couldn't have done in a million years because they hadn't worked out who they weren't. They felt that there were things maybe they could do. They couldn't have done that in a million years. It was not even outside their circle. It wasn't in the outer circle of the outer circle of the outer circle. We've got to know who we are, work it out. Of course, a rabbi, a rebbe, or a rebbitzin, or someone who can help us and guide us with who we are. And then we start maximizing who we are. And of course, the more that we learn, we'll add to this. Okay. So now that we've seen that introduction, we now properly understand what the Baal Tanura says. He says something fascinating. Says the Baal Tanura. He says, when it says, Hu Hoya Omer, and now we're going to see what this Rav says in Pirkei Avos. It says it means, that phrase means, this was who he was. This was his motto for life. This was his neshama. We'll see in a minute what his particular neshama was and what appealed to him. But the lesson that we get out of these 3 or 4 words over here, before we even go too much further, at the beginning of the second parak of Pirkei Avos, is unbelievable. We get to learn who we are. We get to learn what is unique to us. And once we can work that out, like, my goodness, what do I want to be remembered for? What will be my legacy? What am I going to share with my children, my grandchildren? What is the legacy that I'm sharing? Who am I? What am I? Hu Hoya Omer. Those are the first 3 words here at the beginning of this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. What is unique about me? What is my legacy? I'm not sure that I can, again, we've got a lot more. We haven't even started the material tonight. I'm not sure there's anything more important that I'm going to share with you tonight than the first 3 words in this Mishnah. But let's have a look at this Mishnah. So Hu Hoya Omer, this was his motto, this was his neshama. Asei Ratzono Kiratzoncha, right? Treat Hashem's will as though it were your will. What does that mean? So, when we start rebuilding our house, let's say, when we do some renovations, we make it look really beautiful. We can put a lot of money and a lot of effort into it. Just imagine this night, is it coming along okay? Will it be on target? Will it look beautiful? We'll be able to have people stay in our house, outside of Corona times, of course. And now that's where our priorities are. The question that we have to ask ourselves, and the question that this Rav, what really appealed to him was, do we spend as much on mitzvahs as we do on our own personal pleasures? That's what he's speaking about here. Asei Ratzono Kiratzoncha. Make Hashem's will as though it was your will. Make Hashem, this one way some of the Mefarshim learn. Have a look at what is important to Hashem. And try and make that at least as what's important to you. So yes, we would put a lot into the renovations on our home, let's say, or whatever the equivalent is. We should try and have the same sort of love and interest in Hashem's work, which of course is a mitzvah. If our standard has to be the best, then the standard for a mitzvah has to be the best. That's what he's saying here. And then we're told something very fascinating. We're told, if I would say this, you would say, how can I speak this way? But that's what he says. He says Hashem is a mirror. If you put that into Hashem, Hashem says he's going to give it back to you. He's like some sort of promise here, some sort of guarantee over here. Hashem is saying that when we put this in, then back in return, Hashem is going to give us back. Very fascinating. Hashem is like that mirror who's giving us back. That's what this Rav understands here. And then he looks at the flip side of it. The Avera, Bata Ratzoncha Mipnei Ratzono. Nullify your will before Hashem's will. Again, it's the same thing, but it's just the negative element of it. So when we start speaking about Averas, but again, we are just like we should avoid doing sins, obviously, as much as we can. None of us are perfect, the best way we can. Again, Hashem will nullify the will of others before our will. Again, Hashem is that mirror. It's very fascinating. You would think, oh, how we can speak in that way, but at the end of the day, it's empirically obvious here that when we do what we can for Hashem, when we treat His mitzvahs like we treat our physical possessions, whether it's a positive mitzvah or whether it's try not to do an avera, Hashem is going to pay us back in turn. He is going to be that, He's going to mirror our behavior. That's our job, to be as full-hearted as we can, that He will give back to us. So that's something that we learn here. So going back to the first idea of this Mishnah, the Hu Hoya Oimer, which again is that we have got to think about who we are and to maximize the who we are. That's Elokeinu Shema. That's the beginning of Pirkei Avos here. We've got to work out who we are, draw our circle, work out who we are, and have the maturity to work out who we're not. But then we can get nervous and feel, yeah, but look at that guy or that lady down the road, and look how much better than they are. You can even look at it holiness. They are, they're doing better than me, and they have, non-Corona times they have more Shabbos guests than me, or they do more mitzvahs or more chesed or whatever it is. Isn't that a worry? Isn't that a concern? I want to share with you something fascinating. Put this into perspective. In Parashas Vayera, just a week or two ago, in Perek Vav, Pasuk Kaf Vav, 26, it says, it's referring there. The context is about Aaron and Moshe. We're speaking about leading up to the plague. It says who? It says in the pasuk who Aaron and Moshe. This was Aaron and Moshe. So Rashi already asks that usually Moshe's name is mentioned first. Like, why was Aaron's name mentioned before Moshe's name over here? If anything, Moshe, he's the greatest man who ever lived, the greatest Navi who ever lived. Why is Aaron's name mentioned first? So Rashi answers, and he says something interesting, and he says, it was to teach us a lesson that Moshe and Aaron were equals. Okay? Moshe and Aaron were equal. So Moshe Feinstein and others already ask, they put it in such obviously a polite way of speaking, but they say this is very surprising. We know that Moshe was the greatest man who lived. He was the one destined to go and get the Torah from Hashem. Again, Aaron was no little guy. Aaron was as big as he gets. There's no one in this generation who who's a millionth of a millionth. But as great as Aaron was, he wasn't the one who went on to get the Torah. He wasn't the one who spoke mouth to mouth the way that with Hashem, the way that Moshe did. So Moshe Feinstein asks, how could it possibly be that what does Rashi mean when he says that they were equals? They weren't equals. Again, the pasuk says Aaron comes before Moshe. Okay, that is the order. But then we know that Moshe is greater. So Rashi's telling us that no, they're actually equals. Moshe Feinstein says, well, how can they be equals? So he gives a couple of answers. He gives one answer, which is, he tries to say that, of course, they weren't equals. This is his first answer. He says, of course, they weren't equals. We know Moshe was greater. But what Rashi means is that they both were working on the same task, which is redeeming the Jewish people. And when you're working on the same task, then in that particular element you looked at as equals, which is a fascinating principle for us. Because even if, let's say, we feel we've got lesser talents or lesser strength or lesser whatever it is than others, get involved in the mitzvahs that they're doing, because we'll be seen as their equals. You'll be up there with whoever that person is, who you admire, who you feel I'm just not as good as they are. But then Moshe Feinstein gives a second answer, which I think I really want us to take out of. So again, the question is, it says Aaron before Moshe. Rashi says to show that they're equal. Also, Moshe Feinstein, they're not equal. So his second answer is something very interesting. And he says, you want to know what it means that they're equal? They're equal because they both performed Hashem's will to the utmost of their ability and with complete faith. You hear that? That's what it means that they were equals. That's what it means that they were equals. In Hashem's eyes, not for us to judge, and we'll never know in this world who's great, who's not great, because you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what challenges they have. I have a shir on Monday night, and someone who comes to my shir who is, traditional, I don't think they're Shabbos observant, but they're traditional. And this person says in front of my class, and he says, Rabbi, have you not taught us that a Baal Teshuvah, if anything, the Gemara, famous Gemara in Brachos, his tefillah stands where other people's tefillah doesn't stand. He's incredibly great. So we seem to think, I've got to be jealous and I've got to look over my shoulder at this one and that one. Rashi is telling us, as Moshe Feinstein, that Moshe and Aaron were equally great in the sense of they both maximized what they could be. Work out who you are. Think about the things inside the circle that are you. Think about what those things actually are. Might be the most important task you do in your life. Think about what they are. Think about what you're not. Don't try and be what you're not. We're not 12 and 15 that we have to conquer the world. Once a person gets to a certain age, let's say 25, the person has to settle down, have to work out what they're going to be. To do 3 different degrees or whatever it is. It's you keep going with it, but at some point you've got to work out who you are. And what your place in the world is going to be, and what your unique place in the Jewish people is going to be. I've had so many people I've connected with over the years, so many Talmidim who've had different things. I've had people who have been Chinese doctors, people who have been martial arts experts, people who are musical, artistic, you name it, people who are got brilliant Gemara heads. And each person can benefit themselves and the Jewish people in a different type of way. Hashem is giving each person what they need to maximize their part for themselves, for their family, for the Jewish people. The possibilities are there. Work out what you are and what you're not. And we're being taught that Aaron was as great as Moshe in the sense, says Moshe Feinstein, because they both maximized what they were given. And he learns the famous Gemara, this famous idea that there was this Rav who had an out-of-body experience, who was in a coma. And then he comes back down, and it's a Gemara in Pesachim. And he's asked, it's actually his father asked his son, what did you see up there? He says, the famous Gemara says, it's an upside-down world. So the simple understanding of that Gemara is, the people down here who are powerful, doesn't mean they'll be powerful up there, because maybe they were, a nasty piece of work. That's irrelevant. And people who are, great up there may have been nothings down here. No one knew who they were, but they were really, really great people who did everything they could to serve Hashem. So that's the simple meaning of the Gemara. Moshe Feinstein understands it's the same as the idea of Moshe and Aaron. It's his most beautiful idea. He says that it's not just how good you are. He said it's how you want to know who's superior above. By the way, Rabbi Stroll Salanter and others say the same idea. You want to know who's superior above? It's he who maximizes his potential. You're going to find above people who you're going to find somebody who's a greater Torah scholar than someone else, but he might not be as superior as the lesser guy, because the lesser guy had to push himself harder. It's a scary thought. We spend our whole life running around and comparing ourselves to others and thinking we're not wealthy enough and we're not successful enough, we're not chesed and not. The reality is it's not relevant. It's not what Hashem is marking us on. What He is marking us on is to work out, it says in this parak, in this Mishnah, what are you? Elokei neshama, who are you? What am I? And then, once we work out who I am and what I am, to maximize that. And then, in Hashem's eyes, assuming I've maximized it, I can be one of the superior ones in Hashem's eyes and up there, one day. I'm not going to be low down, even though others have accomplished more than me. That's not my work. My work is to maximize myself and to work out who I am, who I'm at. And again, we've seen in this particular Mishnah what resonated to this particular Mishnah. For him it was, don't just live your life that your physical possessions are important. Understand that it's Hashem's Torah mitzvahs that are more important, or at least equal. Put the same into them, and then Hashem will mirror that and will reward you and give you back. Okay, so that's the first Mishnah that we've looked at tonight. I'm just going to move a few of my Sfarim that are over here so I can move on to the next Mishnah. We're now going to have a look at, we can look at another Mishnah. Let's have a look at Mishnah Yud Gimel. I've chosen these because I think that the themes, again, I don't know how far we'll get tonight, but the themes come together very nicely. The first Mishnah that we looked at just now was I'm going to say it like this. You are you. That's the first Mishnah we just looked at. The idea, you are you, not someone else. No one else is relevant. Forget about them. Be happy. Don't be jealous of anyone else. Work out who you are. Now we're going to look at the next Mishnah, which is about, I'm going to call it about me. Okay? So the next Mishnah, I'm just going to move forward in my own Mishnah over here. The next Mishnah, which is 213, is basically, we're discussing, I'm just getting my notes over here. We are discussing over here which trait is the most important. You know, if you'd ask yourself, which trait, which character trait, which midah, like magically you can have any trait possible, which one would you choose? What's the worst trait you want to have? What trait do you want children or grandchildren to have? But what's really, really important? And that's what this Mishnah is dealing with. It's dealing with about me. You know, what trait do I want to have? What do I want to work on? What is really important? So the Mishnah starts and it says, Amalahem, Sa'u Ura'u, Ezehi Derech Tova. Go out and see what is the proper path to which a man should cling. Okay, so just give me 1 second over here. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, it says, go out and see. Remember how much we saw from the first 3 words last time. Hu Hayo'omer, he used to say, which was his life motto. What's our life motto? It starts off here, Su'u Ura'u, go out and see. What does it mean, go out and see? Again, we're now going to discuss what all those go out and sees are. We're going to see, I think, 5 different opinions of what the most important trait to have is. But the Maram El Shaka explains this beautifully, and he says, go out from your daily routine, from your standard outlook, and try to look objectively to reevaluate which values we should cling to. We get so entrenched in ourselves, in our routine, in our lifestyle, in just doing, and we just don't look outside a little bit, just to think a little bit. I've always done things this way. This is who I am. This is how I function. I always do things this way. So he tells us, go out, be a little bit objective, think, get out of your daily routine, and start thinking which values you should start looking with. We get so stuck in our routines, we can lose sight of what's important. Definitely over the last year, last 10 months or so, I think it's given us the opportunity, when our routines have been disrupted, to see life differently, what things are important. I think inbuilt in the first 3 words here, of Uru, the first 2 words, go out and see, I think we've been given the opportunity to do that over the last 9-10 months. But if we haven't had a chance to think about it tonight or tomorrow. By going out of our standard routines, some of us can be so structured and stubborn. And I'm thinking about myself here. We just can't see beyond our nose. But now, think a little bit. What is important? What do I not do that's important? What value is important? So Ura'ud says the Maharam El Shaka, go out and have a look. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at this Mishnah. So he's asking, this is actually Rabbi Yochanan Zaki asks, what are his 5 disciples? What is the proper path to which a person should cling? So Rabbi Eliezer says it's a good eye. Again, I think this fits in very nicely with what we learned before. What does it mean, a good eye? So he's satisfied with what he has, not worrying about someone else. Try and be satisfied with who I am, what I have. And you know what? I can even be happy about other people's success. That is really hard. You have to be such a good team player to be able to do that. Be happy about someone else's success. But if we have it in Muddah, we have faith that Hashem gives us what we need, then why not? Why not? So we don't have the emunah that Hashem given us what we need for our unique neshama, that we're not able to do that. And I'm always looking at someone else. And it's Rabbi Eliezer, have a good eye. Be satisfied with what you have. Rabbi Yeshua says that it's a good friend. What does it mean, a good friend? Of course, there's various places it discusses it. A friend is someone, it's not just someone who makes you feel good. It's someone who's close enough with you, you're close enough with you, can even give you constructive criticism. And is able to do that. How many such people do we have in our lives? And his idea will be, he'll feel that this is even better than a good eye. Because a person could become bitter, but someone, a good friend, will always remind him, come on, you're bitter. Come on, you're X, Y, or Z. That's a good friend. Rabbi Yossi takes it on to the next level when he says a good neighbor, right? Our neighbors know more about us maybe than our friends. They see us the whole time. They see, maybe they hear more from some of our homes. They know more about us. They're even in closer proximity than our friends. Reb Shimon says that it's someone who considers the outcome, right? Someone who thinks and is able to strategize. When it comes to business, let's say, and a person wants to, let's say, make an investment, how much time and energies and strategic thinking do they put into what that investment is going to look like? Just think about that. If a person, invested money in something and it didn't work out, and then they get some of that money back. I don't know, they were in property and it didn't work out, and they get a third back. God forbid, that can happen. So before they start thinking what they're going to invest the rest of their money in, strategic, and they think and they plan and they take advice and they take counsel, and then they think it over and they mull it over and do we really do this again and that again? Says Rav Shimon, you got to think about the outcome, especially when it comes to a mitzvah. You got to be a little bit strategic. What do I do next? What do I do of myself? What am I visualizing? Don't just like carry on. Think about and considering the outcome. So Rav Shimon says that is a big deal. Well, the big deal. Rebbe Elazar learns that it's a good heart. He learns that it's a good heart, where my emotions at the center, are kind and thoughtful, nice to people. So so far we've got our 5 opinions of Su'u Uru'u, as the Maharam El-Shaka says, go out and start thinking a little bit out of our natural confines of who we are and what's important. The first opinion was Rebbe Elazar, a good eye, satisfied with what we have, happy for other people's successes. Rabbi Yeshua learns it's a good friend who can give us constructive criticism. Rabbi Yossi learns that it's a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon learns someone who considers the outcome, strategically plans to do mitzvahs, to work in his midas. Rabbi Elazar learns it's a good heart, someone who's kind and thoughtful and everything else. The Mishnah finishes off and it says that he considers, okay, so he learns and he says, he says to them, I prefer the words of Elazar ben Arach. Okay, prefer his words. Because to have a good heart can encompass everything else. When you have a good heart, it can deal with everything. It makes you happy with other people's successes. It enables you to be a good friend. It enables you to be a good neighbor. And to develop the emotional sensitivity to view the outcome. It can do everything if you have a good heart. So that's how he wants to learn. He wants to learn that when you have the good heart, it can include all of these 4 other crucial elements. The good eye, which is satisfied for what he has, the good friend who can give constructive criticism, the good neighbor, and the one who does strategic thinking of the outcome of ourselves, of our mitzvahs, and a good heart, which is the emotional thinking towards others. Okay, so that's Mishnah Yud Gimel, which again, we've seen a couple of different ideas here. We've seen the getting out of the confines and thinking who we are, thinking about what we can do, what does not naturally, ruts that we're in when we're stubborn. Corona's given us the opportunity to think a little bit out of the box, a little bit differently, what we can adapt ourselves to be. Okay, We'll look at, I think, one more Mishnah tonight. We're going to look at the 16th. We're going to look at the 16th Mishnah. Just give me one moment. Where did it go? Okay. Here it is. Okay. The 16th Mishnah is. So again, the first thing that we looked at was you are you, and the second thing we looked at was about me. We're now going to look at, just give me one moment. We're now going to look at a 16th Mishnah, which is, just give me 1 second. Oh, how happy we will be. Okay. That's what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at really essentially being in this world and happiness. Because we're going to read, let's have a look at this Mishnah. Rabbi Shua says that there are three things: ayin hara, an evil eye; yetzer hara, the yetzer hara, sinas habrios, which is sinas chinam, takes a person away from the world. Again, ayin hara. We can look at what these things are in a minute, but the bad eye, the yetzer hara, and sinas chinam, the hatred, takes a person away from the world. So, the fact that I am reading this and the fact that you are listening, or you've got a couple of your screens on, automatically we feel that we're living. But yet he tells us in this Mishnah that we're not necessarily living. We might think we're living, but we're not. He says if these things overrule us and take over us, it takes a person away from the world. We could be physically present in this world, but if our life is revolving around negativity and hatred, which is what this Mishnah is speaking about, ayin hara, looking at others negatively, having a look at others, always thinking, maybe looking at others, the negativity, the bad elements, because we're not really happy with ourselves, so we're looking at others. The yetzer hara. The yetzer hara, of course, works by starting on the little bits. The hatred of others without a cause. It takes us away from the world. We just can't be happy. And I think this really gets us thinking about what does make us happy. These things take us away, and we're not living at least in some sort of emotional state, even though we may physically be here. But what is it that gives us happiness? What drives us? And there are different answers to that question. And I think the very first place that we started from was a huge answer in itself. I think, again, this all connects. When we know what our neshama is, we know who we are. When we understand ourselves, what we've got the capabilities for, what's unique about us, that's going to make us happy. Instead of always thinking about someone else, that can make us happy. I don't need, preaching to the converted, but I'll tell you a story about 4.5 years ago. I'll never forget, I had a student of mine in Vancouver who must have been about 17 years old at the time, was in my house for a Shabbos meal. I'll never forget, he says to me, Rabbi, and he's very secular. He's a secular Israeli, probably an atheist. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He says, Rabbi, why are you so happy? It bothers me. Bothers me. Which is interesting. I never thought whether I was or wasn't happy before that point. But it bothered him. Why are you happy? His question was, what do you have that I don't have? And I thought it was such a fascinating question. And, I think it was possibly the first thing that we discussed tonight, which was feeling that I knew who I was. I'd been doing the same sort of job for about 10 years at that point, actually more, about 11, 12 years at that point, of working with people, in particular young people, teenagers, students, sharing Torah, sharing mitzvahs with people, sharing our lives with people. But I said to him, I said, I think it's more than that. I said, there's also the element of when I feel I'm doing the will of God, when I'm doing Torah mitzvahs and I've got a religious lifestyle, I'm happy. someone who's secular, they found that very, very hard. They're like, why are you like this? That's not in the real world. People aren't happy. And I found this so. He was a very, very smart kid. This brilliant, brilliant kid. Like both his parents were university professors, and I think it was a very fascinating thing to listen to. The truth is, I have another mission that I could do, Mrs. Wolfson, but I think I should just, unless you disagree, I could do another mission. I think I should wrap up the three things which sort of come together.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to wrap up because I think that the fourth idea that I had is a little bit, it's a beautiful idea, but I think it's a little bit out of the topic of these three. So I want to wrap up. We started with Hu Hoya Oima tonight. Maybe the most important thing we'll ever think about. What is our life motto? What is it going to be our legacy? What are we going to pass on to our children and our grandchildren? We can only know once we've worked out who we are. Draw that circle, put inside what you are, be mature, leave the things that we're not outside. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how young or how old, it's hard to let go of things that we're not. It's so, so hard. So we think we can do it all, but it'll make us happy. It'll make us happy. Hu Hoya Oima. Then we saw the next Mishnah, which was about me. You know, I need those first three words in that Mishnah, in Mishnah 16, which was go and look outside, go outside your horizon, especially with Corona. Go and have a look. Go think. We're so stubborn. We're so set in our ways. Go have a little bit of a look outside and see what elements, what values are really important, you know? Think about it. And then finally, we've seen just now what will make us happy. So of course, it's Torah and Mitzvahs that makes the neshama happy and everything else. But also, when we know what's not going to make us live is the hatred, and it's going to be the jealousy. But when the contrast of that, when we know who we are and we focus on doing these things, then we're alive, then we're living, then we're happy. Thank you so much, Mrs. Wolfson, for the invitation. I thank each of you for spending this time. It's been a tremendous success being able to learn with you. Thank you so much, and may we all work out who we are, energize ourselves tomorrow when we say Elokai Neshama. We should really think about our soul, our unique soul, and give thanks to Hashem that Hashem made us in that special form, just who we are, and thank Hashem for it, and think, every day that Hashem made us special. Thank you so much. Happy Tu B'Shvat, and a good night.